Hi everybody, welcome back to organ practice. It's been a while since I've had time to make one of these videos, but it's the fall, so I'm going to start making some more of them again. And this week I'm practicing some Pachelbel, most famous for his canon in D, but he wrote a lot of organ music. He was a well-known organist and composer in his day and was friends with all of the Bachs and takes up that sort of middle Baroque period. So I'm working on one of his chacones. And a chacon is what we call a ground bass piece. That is, he takes a chord progression and he repeats it over. Sometimes it's a bass line, sometimes in this case it's more of a chord progression. And he just repeats that thing over and over again. So what you have to think of this like, it's like the original concept of a jam band or something like that. When you think about how music was invented and how people started thinking about, well, we could make this longer, how could we make it make sense? One of the things that musicians have seemingly always done is take a basic idea, like a chord progression, and just come up with different variations on it. That is, at its most fundamental level in music or in art in general, you can do a thing and then you can do that exact same thing again, or you can do a thing and do a different thing. Well, if you do a different thing, then you have to figure out how you're going to tie that different thing together so that it seems like it's unified in some way. And the amazing thing about that is no matter if you do something very, very different, so that there's no connection between what happened in the past, it can be pretty tricky to unify it. Rhythm can always unify stuff. So if I come up with a distinctive rhythm, I can do whatever I want. Your ear and your mind will tie those things together because the rhythm is such a strong unifying force that it doesn't matter what notes I play. If you want to get into more specific notes, then you have to think of other ways to unify things. And in this case, he's using this same repeated chord progression that goes on for a full 10 minutes if you take all the repeats. And so then if you're going to do the same thing that much, it can get boring very quickly. And so he makes it interesting by coming up with different textures. So let me show you just a little bit. Here's the original chord progression that he bases this whole thing on. It's fairly simple. That's it. But he's almost inexhaustible when it comes to inventing new keyboard textures to keep that from getting boring. So the next thing we hear right after that is this. And then we get this. And then this. On and on and on. He just never seems to run out of ideas. And it's sort of establishing what can be done on the keyboard, what can make things interesting. What if we just play the chord progression fairly simple and make the left hand do fancy stuff? Kind of cool, right? And you'll notice in all of this that I'm not playing on the pedals. Pachelbel was working in southern Germany, and the southern German school was not known for having organs with lots of fancy pedal playing. That was a North German thing. So you won't see, that's why it makes these pieces incredible for beginning organists, because you can play a lot of exciting music without having great pedal technique. And it goes on like this, where he's going back and forth, doing fast stuff in the left hand, fast stuff in the right hand. And then eventually, at the middle of one of these passages, we go. Then he brings it back down. You get the idea of that. Then we have to build it up to a climax at the end. Watch what he does towards the end. I'll play you the last 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many variations, just so you can see how exciting he makes the conclusion. It's a little bit different when you take all the repeats because you get the sort of gravity and expanse of the whole thing, where you can really get this sense of, we don't know how to write really long pieces and keep them diverse enough to be interesting, but unified enough to be the same piece. And you also get the sense in this that had it gone on for another 10 minutes, that he wouldn't have ever run out of inventive new ways to play and sort of riff on that same chord progression. So if you don't know the ground bases of Pachelbel, there are a ton of them besides the canon in D, and most of them are for organ, and they're very beautiful. So check them out. Thanks for listening.